Coming up on Now See This. When a deadly swarm attacks a stranded motorist,
I've got thousands of bees swarming around my car right now.
the odds are stacked against him, 30,000 to 1. When a surprise snowfall traps a frustrated pilot,
We're stuck here, and we'll be for a day or two.
the odds of getting airborne are 1,000,000 to 1. And when a motorcycle daredevil takes a giant leap backwards, the odds of landing clean are still 0. There's more cops than you can count, more danger than meets the eye, and more than one way to skin a cat.
Bring him up, bring him up, bring him up.
Think you've seen it all? Now see this. For human cannonball Hermes Zampurla, it's just another day on the job.
3, 2, 1.
Being shot out of a cannon and soaring for 120 feet at 50 miles an hour does have its share of occupational hazards. Every calculation of elevation, trajectory, and velocity has to be exact. But Hermes is an old pro. In his 14 years as part of the Zampurla family thrill circus, his record has been flawless, with thousands of perfect landings at fairs and festivals across the country. But every daredevil will tell you that no matter how lucky they've been, there's always that one day when their job could cost them their life. For Hermes Zampurla, today is that day. Under darkened skies at the Florida State Fair, Hermes Zampurla prepares for the latest in a long line of routine shots. The barrel is raised, and Hermes cheerfully waves goodbye to the crowd before disappearing into the firing chamber. He hears the usual countdown, and feels the old familiar jolt. But then, he overshoots his airbag and crash lands on the hard-packed earth. The crowd is stunned. People rush to his aid. Zampurla is seriously hurt. His back is broken, and he has a severe head injury.
I watched that video and I don't know how I'm not dead or I'm paralyzed from the neck down. I can't remember nothing of the accident or that day.
But he's been able to piece together what went wrong.
The calculation of the elevation was off, and we overshot by 20 feet.
A simple human error left the barrel just a few degrees too low.
I think I can tell that from watching the video that I knew that something was wrong. I was like reaching a little bit and I wasn't sure.
After a high-flying career, this human cannonball is now grounded.
I might like get on the outside, but my doctor has advised me not to do this anymore.
Every daredevil would like to be remembered for one big final stunt before they retire. Hermes Zampurla was lucky that his last performance only ended his career and not his life.
I can just thank my lucky stars that I'm here.
In Germantown, Ohio, Police Sergeant Scott Brown races to the scene of a terrible accident. A driver has lost control on this winding back road and hit a truck parked in someone's driveway.
The call we received was a accident with injuries where a car had flipped over and was on fire with a person trapped inside. Basically what I expected to find was just a little bit of smoke.
What Sergeant Brown sees as he approaches is a massive fireball. Inside it are two upended vehicles, and at the bottom is the victim. The sergeant cautiously approaches the scene.
I could see that there was a person hanging outside a passenger window, half in and half out of the car, and he was yelling, "Help me."
With the victim wedged beneath 2 tons of twisted flaming metal and no fire extinguishers handy, Sergeant Brown feels helpless. He's also literally surrounded by danger.
The lady that owned the parked vehicle told me that her truck was completely full of gas. She just filled it up before she parked it that evening.
But that's not all. Just a few feet away from the inferno sits a tank of highly explosive propane. Suddenly, a blast. From the soaring temperatures inside the vehicle fire, a tire explodes. The victim is still conscious, but writhing in agony. Sergeant Brown, an 11-year veteran, is terrified.
A lot of fear. Once the explosion happened to me, I didn't want to go back up to the car. I thought about my family when I was standing there because I thought, I didn't know what was going to blow up next. The propane tank was starting to get hot and it was starting to steam.
Within seconds, Officer Kevin Shields arrives on the scene, but he knows nothing of the previous explosion or of the other dangers.
I immediately started running in towards the car. Once I was able to get close enough to the car, I squatted down and started crawling towards the vehicle and grabbed a hold of the subject's hands.
But Officer Shields was hardly without fear either.
I was scared, afraid of what could happen next. The fire was pretty intense.
He was pulling on this guy, trying to free him up, and he was telling him, I'm going to get you out, I'm going to get you out. And I knew right then that I had to help him.
With no protective gear and with time running out, both men have to work fast.
Once I started pulling on him, I was immediately assisted by Sergeant Brown, and Sergeant Brown grabbed a hold of his other arm, and that's when we was able to pull him to safety.
The man is dragged a safe distance from the fire, but his injuries are extensive.
The injuries the victim received were severe smoke inhalation, and he was burned over 35% of his body with second and third degree burns.
In the smoldering aftermath, it's hard to believe that anybody could have survived this inferno. But miraculously, the victim is alive. The officers escaped serious injury, but Sergeant Brown has one regret.
After the event, I felt that I didn't do enough to help him.
But he did help save a life, and Officer Shields could not have done it without him. For their extraordinary efforts, the men are hailed as heroes.
We were presented a proclamation by the mayor and the fire chief, and we were also given life-saving medals and medals of valor from our department.
To save a stranger, these two men had to overcome some hellish obstacles. But none were as great as the one they ultimately conquered, their own fears. They're fast, and they sting with a vengeance. So when an entire hive of Yellow Jackets stirred up around Marvin Mitchell's disabled car, the former Marine knew that he and his 17-year-old son Ian were in serious trouble.
My intent that day was to do a reconnaissance on the nest, find out, how big this thing is. So come back that night and smoke them out.
The day began as a harmless look into what Mitchell thought was a small hive of bees beside his house. But it turned into a life-or-death ordeal when his sedan got stuck on top of an underground nest of Yellow Jackets. Now they're attacking the intruder. Mitchell's military training tells him that his best bet is to call for backup.
I'm stuck in the hole with the bees.
You've got bees swarming around your car?
Yes, ma'am. I'm stuck in the hole. I'm not able to drive away.
As Jacksonville fire and rescue workers arrive, Mitchell is less concerned about his own safety than the safety of his children.
My main concern were the kids in the house. I didn't want them to, come out the house and to investigate what was going on.
I've got thousands of bees swarming around my car right now, and I have 2 young kids inside my house wanting to come outside to see what's wrong.
His fear is justified. The swarm of almost 30,000 could kill a grown man, not to mention a child.
All right, sir, we've got somebody en route, okay?
The rescue workers keep the children inside the house, but they're at a loss for how to reach the trapped victims.
We told them to stay inside the car till we could figure out a plan.
Suddenly, the situation turns even more perilous. The crafty pests somehow get inside the car.
They found a way into the vehicle. All windows were shut and sealed. The air conditioning system was turned off. Everything, vents were closed, but they found a way in.
Is anyone stung, sir?
We are.
And when we started to get stung is when we started, swatting them. And the more we swat, the more came in.
The rescue team tries to figure out how to remove the infested vehicle.
We called for a wood truck so we could hook up to it to pull it out away from the nest.
Sporting a makeshift bee suit secured with duct tape, rescuer Dennis Herman approaches the car, careful not to further agitate the horde of Yellow Jackets.
Me and Dennis Herman bunkered up and got duct tape and taped our arms and our legs and went up there. When the wood truck got here, we went hooked to it and pulled it back off of the nest.
The car is slowly pulled away from the nest, but inside the passenger cab, the assault continues.
By the time the officers and the fire department got there, we might have had about 100 of them in the car.
With the car moved off the underground hive, rescue workers Herman and Rigdon use a CO2 gas fire extinguisher to deter the remaining Yellow Jackets. It takes some coaxing to get Mitchell and his son out of the car.
You want me to get out of a car where there's about 20 or 30 of them in the car to a swarm of 30,000? So you guys are out of your mind.
But there's only one way out of this mess. And with a bevy of persistent Yellow Jackets guarding the exit, Mitchell and son had to make a bold decision. They make a beeline for a clearing away from the car. The bees follow, getting in their parting shots. Even after exiting the vehicle, Mitchell finds that the swarm's most tenacious Yellow Jackets have infested his clothing. In the end, both Mitchell and his son sustained between 20 and 30 stings each. But this former Marine walked away a much wiser man.
So I've learned my lesson. If there's a nest around, get a professional, get it done.
In the magnificent Mount Cook area of New Zealand, Mother Nature has trapped this DC-3 in a sudden and unexpected snow. Captain Alistair Johnston has to wade through drifts that are over 3 feet deep. And he is understandably frustrated.
We're stuck here, and we'll be for a day or two by the look of it.
Johnston had brought a tour here for a day trip to Mount Cook. When the plane became snowbound, his passengers had to be bussed out. Now, as a director of the airline, he feels it's his responsibility to get their luggage to them without further delay. After all, this is the powerful DC-3, and although they aren't made anymore, they are still preferred by small airlines for the very reason that they are able to take off and land in very difficult terrain. Johnston has already cleared part of the runway by taxiing back and forth. And he's now the picture of confidence, signaling to the helicopter that they're ready to give it a try. Cameraman Joe Morgan sets up at the end of the runway to capture a daring and dramatic takeoff. Then, as the plane comes into view, Morgan realizes that something is wrong. The huge aircraft begins to veer off the runway.
Oh shit, he's not going anywhere.
At the last moment, the pilot realized he didn't have the traction to control the plane. And when he tried to stop on the snow-clogged icy runway, the 17,000-pound machine suddenly had a mind of its own. Of course, almost before the propeller came to rest, there were experts with opinions on what the pilot should have done.
It might have been prudent to have had a good look at the runway first, and if that meant walking the runway to have it, to check it out, then that's what it meant.
The pilot took a big chance, and it turned out to be a very expensive gamble. The undercarriage is shredded, the 40-foot wing is cracked, and the wheel support is broken like a twig. This was certainly a costly attempt to deliver someone's luggage. But the lesson here is very clear. You can decide what you think you should be able to do, but in these mountains, Mother Nature tells you what you can do.
He's not going anywhere.
Atlanta, Georgia. Morning rush hour. James Sharp, the man driving this truck, has stolen some landscaping equipment. It's not exactly the crime of the century. But Sharp is running as if his life depended on it. And with half a dozen city cops on his tail, and one quickly passing him on his right, he grows so desperate he doesn't even see a pedestrian. Until it's almost too late. The startled man jumps back just in time as Sharp cuts through a gas station to avoid being boxed in. As the cruisers swarm around him, it looks like Sharp is cornered. but he finds an exit and nimbly escapes onto a narrow residential street. When he gets to the end, he barely slows down before plunging into cross traffic. With too many commuters clogging the road, he goes off-road. The Atlanta police catch up, but the suspect is still able to find an opening and continue his mad getaway. Believing the freeway is the ultimate key to his escape, he heads towards a downtown on-ramp, but an unwitting motorist gets in his way. This man just wanted to get to work. Now he's a casualty of a man who is rapidly spiraling out of control. From simple thievery to hit and run, James Sharp is determined to make things worse for himself and anyone in his path. A battalion of cruisers now follows him onto the freeway. The chase quickly reaches 85 miles an hour, and at these speeds, a hit and run with an innocent driver would be lethal. The helicopter pilot goes live with a warning to the public.
You're on the southbound connector. Look in your rearview mirror. Get off to the side. Move to the right emergency lane as these police cars approach.
The man is heading straight toward downtown Atlanta, a terrifying prospect. Pursuing officers have a plan to stop him from getting there, and that includes keeping him on the freeway at all costs.
The Cleveland Avenue overpass, he just runs right into that police car.
Now it's assault on a police officer. The police may appear to take it on the chin, but their plan is to wait for the perfect moment and then launch their secret weapon.
State trooper lining up now on that ramp from 75 southbound. He's trying to gain up some speed.
Up ahead, the Georgia State Police lie in wait. They alone are authorized to perform the dangerous pit maneuver, a tactic that, if employed precisely, will shut down this driver for good. In his blue and white cruiser, Georgia State Trooper Paul Collier accelerates toward the thief. The pit maneuver is like doing surgery at 90 miles an hour, but it's an operation where the surgeon and the patient can both die.
Here's a state trooper. I think he's getting ready to put that maneuver on him here. He's approaching the left rear quarter panel and spinning around. Up the back that goes. Something flies out of the back of that toolbox.
Trooper Collier nudges the truck in the right spot. It's a perfect pit. But James Sharp refuses to give up. He bails out the passenger door on foot. If he makes it into the thick woods on his right, he could escape for good. The officers sprint to catch up. He doesn't get far before he's tackled. It takes a handful of officers to subdue him, but they finally have their man.
This chase is over.
He is escorted into custody. And as he sits handcuffed in the back of a police cruiser, he can only wonder if it was worth it. For a few landscaping tools, he was willing to endanger anyone on the street. Atlanta police did their best to contain him. But when the time was right, they gladly stepped aside and let the specialist go to work. Los Angeles-based plumbing contractor Dave Bischoff has years of experience working on pipes. From clogged drains to backed up sewers, there's no job for which he hasn't got the tools. But one night, he was faced with a challenge that would stump even the most experienced plumbing professional.
Received a phone call from a woman who had found a kitten.
A newborn kitten had strayed from his litter and gotten himself stuck inside a storm runoff drain pipe.
The kitten was approximately 7 or 8 feet down inside of the vertical line looking upwards.
Unsure of whom to call, the owner of the house contacted both Bischoff and the local fire department.
The fire department doesn't have the type of equipment that we do, although they've done lots of animal rescues.
Bischoff's plumbing tools include a state-of-the-art video snake.
It's a fiberglass push rod with a video camera system that can be put down in the inside of a drain line.
Using the camera to assess the situation, the team begins to weigh their options.
It was possible that I could have put a plastic tube down with a snare loop around the kitten's neck.
But it was Bischoff who came up with a unique idea for removing the kitten.
In this instance, I ended up using a vacuum extraction device.
We have more here.
It's a radical solution, using an industrial-strength vacuum to gently suck the kitten to safety. Normally, this powerful device is used to remove stubborn debris from clogged pipes.
I just hope it doesn't hurt the cat. If it goes over its head and its nose and mouth go into the opening, can it possibly suck the breath out of it?
Yes. He was almost big enough to go in that hose, isn't he? What kind of suction are we talking about?
I had a concern due to the strength of the vacuum that if the hose had gotten over the kitten's nose and mouth, if it could conceivably collapse its lungs.
Before the team goes to work, they try to calm the frightened feline.
Meow, meow. Got pretty blue eyes. Beautiful blue eyes.
They've only got one shot. If the vacuum's too weak, the frightened feline might crawl deeper into the hole. Too strong, and the result could be fatal.
So we turned on suction motor number 1, and I put my hand over the end of it to get a feel for how hard it was sucking. Then they turned that off and we tried number 2, and number 2 was less of a suction that I thought would be sufficient for the weight of the small kitten.
They all agree. Bischoff will guide the hose using the video feed while the firefighters regulate the vacuum.
Okay, go ahead and turn on the vacuum.
Run 2 going on. Pull him. All the way up. Bring him up, 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 bring him up. Got him.
As if on cue, the kitten turns his face and the vacuum creates a perfect seal around his head. Within seconds, he's pulled free. With the kitten rescued, Bischoff takes another look inside the pipe to make sure there aren't others.
What else is down there?
Got more?
All kinds of toys.
That stopped it from going down further.
Dave's rescue idea may have seemed crazy, but it proved to be very effective. He later learned that this incident revolutionized the way the LA Fire Department approaches animal rescues.
They sent around an interdepartmental memo around that this was a rather novel, non-invasive way of rescuing animals from drain lines, and it was to be considered on all future rescues.
The driver's seat of a speed truck is no place for the timid, because there's no such thing as a fender bender at 100 miles an hour. Cameras at the Las Vegas Speedway capture this mid-season truck race from every angle, just in case there's a problem. And with the help of cameras inside the vehicles themselves, you're about to witness an accident in a way you've never seen.
2x2 in front of you, 8 cars loose all over the track.
Driving in truck number 3, Dave Hartsook fights to prevent rival Robert Sanders from passing on his right. Fenders collide, and Sanders doesn't like it. On the next turn, he gives Hartsook a bump and throws the race into chaos. This simple nudge starts a chain reaction of full-throttle collisions. Hartsook's truck gets knocked onto its side, skids 50 feet, then falls dead on its wheels. Inside his rig, Hartsook desperately hangs onto his steering wheel. Only halfway into his skid, he saw the next hit coming. It's Truck 66, the first innocent in the crossfire. Scott Porter has no time to react when Hartsook spins out. In Truck 18, Don Foreman becomes the next victim. Only one driver who hits the melee is able to recover. In yellow truck number 4, Scott Saunders hears the call from his pit crew.
Go low, 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 low.
Another truck rams him, sending him skidding toward the wall.
Oh, good job.
Incredibly, the violent spin-out does almost no damage, and he's able to pull away. As for Sanders, who caused this whole mess, he cruises into the clear as the trucks pile up behind him. But he doesn't get far.
Stop, stop, red flag, stop, red flag.
The race is halted to deal with the mess. As a single belch of fire issues from Foreman's truck, rescuers rush onto the scene. Several hurry to Hartsook's aid, hoping to find him conscious. Incredibly, he's not only alert, he's virtually unscathed.
You okay? I'm all right. I'm cool.
The other drivers are also fortunate to avoid injury.
You all right? I'm fine.
But their trucks aren't as lucky.
No, there was sparks. They got no ignition.
I can't get it started. Radiator's gone. It's all over the hood.
3 contestants have to leave the race, 2 of them dragged away by tow trucks. But there's one other competitor who heads for the exit with them. Instigator Robert Sanders has been flagged out of the race for his aggressive move. Race officials are sending a very clear message to their competitors. Winning will never come at the expense of safety. A crowd has gathered near the Great Wall of China. The ancient wonder of the world is about to set the stage for a new kind of man-made wonder. It's taken one Chinese athlete over a decade of practice to set up the ultimate motorcycle stunt. Daredevil Yu Shunyi is going to attempt to jump his motorcycle over the Great Wall. But this is no ordinary jump. He's going to do it riding backwards. Never before has such a death-defying stunt been attempted. Shunyi will not even be able to see the 45-foot gap he hopes to clear until it's too late. Just making it up the ramp will require precision steering and use of every scrap of skill Shunyi can muster. The excitement reaches fever pitch as the rogue biker races toward the end of the ramp and crashes onto his landing pad. Concerned staff and onlookers rush to Shunyi's side to make sure he's okay. But the master thrill seeker knew that the odds of landing straight on this kind of jump were slim to none. And he broke his fall with a mountain of foam rubber. He hops to his feet unscathed and with a new world record. He's the first man ever to jump the Great Wall of China on a motorcycle backwards. Shunyi tells the enthusiastic crowd that the jump was part of a publicity campaign to bring the 2008 Olympics to China. But he admits that backward motorcycle jumping is a long way from becoming an Olympic event. After all, even the premier expert in the field hasn't yet learned how to stick the landing.